research coordinator at the Ethereum Foundation. As Nicholas mentioned, we'll be talking about a project called Ethproofs, which we liken as the L2B for zkVMs. So first, I just want to give a warm thank you to the HoZK. I feel like there's a lot of synergy in the missions of the two projects. So, both really trying to focus on accelerating and scaling zk responsibly in the public realm. And then also a shout out to the zkVM team that just presented. They are actually one of the first of three different teams to be submitted proofs to Ethproofs. And just this week, we worked with their team to do the first in-browser verification of free. So yeah, back to I guess my role at the Ethereum Foundation. I'm a research coordinator, so that's like a PM, and we kind of joke from day to day, meeting to meeting. You got like asked, okay, what's the P and PM stand for? And it's always different. Program manager, product manager, project manager, and so with Ethproofs, you kind of like get the opportunity to do a bit of each of those. And when I first got the invite to come speak, I was a little intimidated. Just coming, I'm very my work has to be thinking much more tactical and action oriented, and so getting in a room where you're maybe you can be speaking that in front of a technical audience about technical topics can be a little intimidating. But so we're going to zoom out. So rather than kind of getting focused on the details, we're first going to like start the really big picture, and then we'll get into the who, the why, and then into Ethproofs. And so really Ethproofs is a great representation of some of the value that Ethereum Foundation brings to the Ethereum ecosystem. So Ethereum, like as a whole, was thrives on collaboration. So you think about open source technology, you think about all core devs process, you think about composable finance, all of that like is empowered by or a byproduct of collaboration. And so really the Ethereum Foundation's mission is to support Ethereum's growth through research, public goods, and decentralizing these different properties or projects or entities that are stood up by the Ethereum Foundation initially. And really, Ethproofs is one of those. And so one thing that's really unique about the Ethereum Foundation is that it's kind of like a recursive loop of nesting team of teams. And so this is, like a artist's rendition of a big idea of what the Ethereum Foundation could look like on paper. And so, imagine like many ever-changing orbits of people that are working together on projects. And I just wanted to highlight like in the larger green circle is sort of within protocol research and development, there's Ethereum research. And so that's bolstered by EcoCore devs, by operations, and a lot of like different developer activation and amplification and different a whole host of diverse functions. But then right at the core of protocol research and development is the Ethereum research group. And so within there's 6 different teams: consensus R&D, cryptography, robust incentives group, so looking at different crypto economic mechanisms, applied research groups, so people that are doing research that's actually being applied right at the moment rather than more theoretical research. Protocol security, which is also like highly actionable, so a lot of bounties and different stress testing in the network from a lot of different points of view. And then the team I work on, which is research ops. And so research ops kind of like helps facilitate collaboration amongst those teams, but then also amongst those teams and the other teams within the EF, and amongst those teams and teams outside of the EF. So I like to think of it as this kind of like plot diagram. One axis is, at the very immediate implementation, this is at the applied side, and then another side, very future forward thinking, theoretical, future innovation side. And then top to bottom, like being very protocol specific, like just about the consensus layer, the execution layer, data availability, all the way up to ecosystem wide. So that could be all of the L2s, wallets, and zkVMs. And so within research ops, it's a new team, small team, where we really, I think, are involved in a lot of really interesting things. So we've got every week there's this alt-core devs process. So one thing that's very unique about Ethereum is that you don't go to some GitHub repo and just see, oh, this is the core implementation of Ethereum. There's a lot of different teams that build a lot of different implementations of Ethereum. And so that is all what the foundation does principally. There's a lot of research and spec writing that happens, and then those people work with those outside teams to write the different client implementations. We have several teams on writing consensus clients and execution clients. And so at All Core Devs, we kind of like administer that ritual and like keep that process moving forward. And then that expands outward to like other layers. So L2 are trying to do a similar thing. I'm trying to build some common standards across different L2s, L2 agnostic addresses and things of that nature. Trying to make some tighter connections between L1 and L2 with based and native rollups, future staking. I'm involved with Furios efforts, so really trying to accelerate some of the blobs. And then obviously getting into like research events and interops and whole another set of things. But one project that I'm involved in that we're going to talk a bit more about today is Ethproofs. And so Ethproofs is a really great example of that scatter plot where you get to see something that has immediate applications, future applications, that's protocol specific and ecosystem wide. You've had contributors that are chief researchers at the foundation, and Justin Dre kind of leads the effort, stood it up, complemented by Alexander Bix, several other researchers. But then the product itself, the platform, is being built by the Ethereum.org team. So another team that's within the Ethereum Foundation is building the API, the front end, the back end, documentation. And then myself, the research coordinator, I'm working with all of the 40 plus zkVM teams, approved teams, to onboard them to find, some sort of like industry standard benchmarks that we want to work towards and get them all on board. So the goal of all these efforts, no matter where it lands on that scatter plot, is to scale Ethereum. We want to provide maximum value to the maximum users without sacrificing decentralization. And so like getting a little more back into Ethproofs, just kind of like starting like very, very left curve basics. Okay, I'm the coordinator, I'm not the technical guy, but like ZDPs, ZDProofs, snarks, ZD snarks, whatever you want to call it. That's a fast, tiny way to distill complex computation into a verifiable form that you can transmit without revealing the data and the details of it. As a VM, a zkVM, is a virtual machine that is purpose-built to prove the computational integrity of that zk proof. And then the zkVM is a zkVM that's purpose-built to have that data be an execution block. So you have one full state change from one block to another block. You want to be able to prove everything that occurred there and verify it on-chain. You need a zkVM to do that. And so what is real-time proving? Real-time proving is kind of the North Star of the Ethproofs project. And so that is the idea that you want to be able to prove, generate and prove an Ethereum block, using a zkVM, all within the 12-second slot time of an Ethereum block. So within that 12 seconds, you want to be able to do all of the proof generation, like pre-processing, pre-execution, sharding, recursion, all the like crazy things that you guys do, be able to do all of that, bring it together into a single proof that can then be verified on chain. And so really like the goal is to be able to do a lot of off-chain computation with on-chain verification without re-execution. And like by doing that, you imagine you like free up the piping that's already in place that's being used for downloading, executing these blocks to make sure that they're verifiable or valid. That goes away, and now those resources open up for a whole lot of other things. So you can have more gas to block. You got instant fidelity, real-time settlement, synchronous execution. So this is a diagram that I lifted from Justin Dre that I work with, and this kind of like speaks to the like full vocabulary of all the unlocks that become available once you have real-time Broodian. So really kind of applies consensus layer, execution layer, application layer. So it would be everything from layered rollups with the EVM being precompiled through the execute precompile to snark find consensus blocks by being able to aggregate post-quantum signatures to real-time settlement and synchronous posability across L2s. And so Ethproofs, we feel, plays a role in trying to accelerate real-time Broodian by, sort of being this, I guess, standard benchmarking platform that all kind of zkVMs can measure themselves against, compete against, like a healthy competition. But there's also like some ability or some effort to try to like I guess, make all of the, just to sort of like level the inputs that are coming in to make sure that everyone's playing towards the same metrics. And so, again, we think about this as L2Beat for zkVM. So the same way that L2Beat tracks security and performance for different L2s, whether it's like how much TDL or CurgeDef or transaction volume, but then also, you can see the pizza pie is like looking at different characteristics, trust assurances, trust assurances that are in the sequencer, or different data availability trade-offs. This is a way to like create a common vocabulary that sort of everyone can look at, have some understanding of the direction that different products are trending and the industry as a whole. And so really we measure proof latency, proof costs, and proof size. Right now we are we have 4 teams that are submitting one in every 100 blocks. So if you go to ethproofs.org right now, you can see blocks being submitted, and proofs being submitted for one of 100 blocks. And the goal within this quarter is to up that to 1 in 10, and then every single block and every single block in real time by the end of the year. And so the teams, like another part of this is like trying to think about the taxonomy and like how this, from like a Better Business Bureau, like how you like start to elevate the whole industry of zkVMs and provers. And so, we've identified, just like through UI studies and speaking with a lot of different teams, we've got the front end broken up into, you've got zkVMs and you've got provers. And so what that means is like a zkVM could be a team that develops and maintains a zkVM, but a prover is a team that actually submits proofs, generates proofs and submits them using the zkVM. So we have teams that are on Ethproofs that do not maintain or develop their own zkVM. And we have teams that do both. And I'm sure that there will be a lot of different variations within there. And you're going to have teams that have several zkVMs that are benchmarked on Ethproofs. So you've got the ability to have like a one of many situation. I don't know if anyone here was, I know Wyatt was on call one yesterday, but we had our first community follow yesterday. This is sort of alluding to the number of teams and the breadth of, the diversity of different zkVMs that we hope to be onboarding this year. So yesterday we had a over a 90-minute long call. We had 26 teams present, and there's, I don't know, probably 6 different types of ISAs represented in the different variations of zkVMs that are being built. A lot of different value props, a lot of different, nuance that they're trying to bring to the market. And so we want to do what we can to sort of highlight, track, and celebrate that nuance. The same way that L2 Beat does happen with L2s, and I think everyone kind of agrees that Ethereum is a more resilient ecosystem because of the diversity of L2s. We want to be able to do the same thing with zkVMs. So when you go to Ethproofs, we're going through a major upgrade right now. So in the next couple of weeks, we should be rolling out the comps that you see on the page here. It's slightly different what's in production right now, but you'll see some standard benchmarking up top, trying to look at all proofs being submitted by all zkVMs across the platform over time, trying to get a sense of the direction that the industry is going in terms of the length of time to be able to submit a proof, the latency, and also the cost of the proof. So cost is determined by trying to find a hardware equivalent using AWS for multi-machine servers and GoPod for single machine servers or single machine proofs. So with those proofers, like I mentioned, there's multi-machine and single machine, and so we want to be able to allow people to highlight, in as much detail as possible, the configuration that they're using, the number of CPUs, GPUs that they're using within their hardware configuration, tie that proving mechanism to a zkVM, and also show all the benchmarks that go along with that. And so at the very bottom, some of those benchmarks are killers. So there's some research that I'm learning about, but there's some adversarially crafted blocks, EVM blocks, that are meant to have a set, like all SHA-256 or like some, very adversarial configuration of opcodes within the block, so that it intentionally causes a zkVM to not be able to generate the proof within the length of normal proof generation. And so we're trying to identify all of those prover killers and have all the team benchmark against those, to try to have some commonality. So trying to find commonality between hardware, that's available to the people and the blocks that are proven. We feel like tries to create some reasonable data points for people to be able to judge performance trade-offs from one product to another. And then going in a little deeper, we also have this kind of L2 style pizza. So this 8-slice pizza, it's got different things that relate to the open source of the code, the auditing level of the code, formal verification, and a whole number of other things. And so really, dude, red is just less than ideal, yellow is reasonable, green is ideal. And so I think just like on L2, how all the teams are trying to compete and converge on as many green slices as possible. It's sort of the same overall dynamic that I'm hoping for here. And then finally, the sort of block browser, and so you can see all of the blocks that are approved. As I said, there'll be a whole new sort of experience of a block explorer, and you'll also be able to download and verify those proofs in the browser. So as I mentioned, we did the first in-browser verification this week. So it's kind of new and novel, I think, contribution that we're making to the space. So if you want to get involved, there's QR codes here. You can join the Telegram community. You can submit a PR to the actual platform itself with the QR code on the bottom. Then there's also all of our Ethproofs calls. So If you go to our Twitter X handle, eth_proofs, you can see a post from yesterday that will link you to call number 1, the YouTube reporting of it. And, feel free to go through there. I think you'll learn a lot from the whole conversation and see, like I said, 20-some teams different present their different ideas. And then Ethproofs call number 2 comes out on May 23rd, I believe. And that's going to focus on the provers, the prover community. And we're going to have some grand details there. We announced yesterday, we're going to be giving out 3 $100,000 grants to teams that can prove every block, every Ethereum block. So there's other criteria that will go along with that. That will be discussed in detail on call number 2. And that is it.
Does anyone have any questions?
Yes.
So the zkVMs like catalog you have on there, so that's specifically for zkEVMs, the non-Ethereum related zkVMs.
Great. Good question. So, really, there's a couple of criteria to, submit proofs to Ethproofs. One, your zkVM would have to be type 1 EVM compatible. And then also your proof generation needs to be 4 megabytes or smaller, and generate from full execution log.
I guess it kind of tended, but I've seen, recently, for and with risk 0, where they had around this proposal. Essentially, it seems like that the first platform could naturally be extended eventually to a marketplace where essentially provers come in and could figure out what basic supply and demand
Yeah, so we're learning a lot about the business models, about emerging around this, and so I think within that, the prover side of the Ethproofs, I think that you'll see a lot of diversity there. There's going to be teams that are just generating proofs from a single machine. There's teams that are doing very large multi-machine clusters. Within those clusters, there could be permissions networks, or it could be permissionless networks. I think the Boundless project that you're talking about falls more of a permissionless network, or really trying to create a GPU marketplace to crowdsource the generation of proofs, which I think is custom.
You think after you achieve your North Star real-time proving, there will be some more talk about using zkP for privacy on Ethereum?
Yeah. That's a great question. I think there's already been a couple of teams that have planted a flag with achieving real-time proving in the next few months. I think that there's going to be that's going to have an impact on what we're measuring, and I think that we're really just starting this conversation and getting teams onboarded and trying to figure out once we cross that threshold, what's the next really meaningful milestone we'll be tracking. Could be cost, could be proof size. Obviously, I think the goal beyond that is to reduce the definition of real time, get that down further and further, so that has an impact on slot duration and other levers that you can pull within a consensus or protocol design theory.